General Manager Bill Zito and Head Coach Paul Maurice. We'll start with questions. Back right, Jameson.
This first one's for Bill, back here. You look at how your team's been built just over these last couple of years since you've been here. Obviously, unique ways, whether it's waivers, the draft, trades, free agency. Just what can you say about the work that your team went into building this team?
Yeah, it's kind of two levels of it, where, look, there's the excellence in the evaluation and that process, and then there's the personality and the buy-in of the scouts, where they debate, they argue, they come to a decision, and then they support it. And some of the guys who may not even support it in the moment will get in and support it to the end, and it makes for a real healthy, it's just an outstanding staff.
Left side, third row.
Paul, when take me back to when you stepped away in Winnipeg and maybe thought that might be the last coaching job for you. How were you at that point at peace with maybe not winning a championship, winning the Stanley Cup, and kind of what went through your mind about that at the time?
I'm not at peace with not winning. I'm at peace in my life. At that point, able to separate the two things. I had 4 phenomenal days of fishing. And this is absolute truth. My phone rings and it's a number I don't know, so I never answer that. And then I get a text from somebody that says, "Answer your phone." Bill and I got on the phone, and it starts there, and it starts with just a conversation. And it's not even really about the job. It's just the interest level I had, and I was good. Then we start talking hockey, and that was it, right? And it's the connection between two people that you feel it or you don't. I was good, right? It was that given all that I thought I had to give, certainly been fortunate in the game and received far more than I gave. But there's just these strange little things that meant Florida was right, was where I was supposed to be next.
Front left, Pierre.
Bill, do you regret hiring Paul? No, I'm just kidding. That's
Give it a week, we'll find out.
I want to hug him.
no, I was wondering if you could talk about your GM counterpart in this series, Ken Holland, who has been someone who's helped counsel a lot of young GMs over the years, and someone who's very approachable, and someone who's been heavily scrutinized in the Edmonton market and trying to get that team over the hump. Any thoughts on Ken?
Yeah, I mean, nothing but complete admiration and respect for both him as a hockey man and as a person. And even when I was an agent, you could go and visit Kenny and talk hockey, and he'd help and give you guidance and talk about players. I had the opportunity to do some USA Hockey things at the World Championship, and he was there with advice and just nothing but sincere admiration and appreciation. And I know I'm not alone. I know all the people in hockey that he's helped, and wonderful, wonderful guy.
Left side, third row.
Paul, it came out this week that your media relations staff won an award from the PHWA, and when you're trying to be a championship contending group every year, fancy product on ice, fancy coaching, fancy that stuff, how important is the rest of the people in an organization that never get talked about?
Everybody has a piece here. I've mentioned that before, and it's part of the culture that Bill has built. So I would look at Adeline as a key piece to what we do. There's challenges in every market. Certainly, I've spent time up north and understand the challenges in the northern market with the volume, but there's also great challenges in a market where you're trying to drive that volume. You're trying to get people to come. The balance of how do I not even protect the players, but how do I give the players a normal experience with the media in terms we're not farming them out to the malls to sign autographs every day and doing them every single interview. At the same time, we need to drive access to our team. We need people to come. I think it's an incredible balancing act to watch her work. I just do whatever she tells me to do. I'm not trying to be funny. After you work with her for a while, you will come to completely trust me, and she'll have the list. You need to do this, 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 and this. We can talk about that one. Not going to go next week. No, you don't really need to do that one. Yes. I just say yes to Addie. She's brilliant to work with.
Left side, second row.
My question's for Bill. Coming off of last year, reaching the final for the first time in 25 plus years, what was your mindset when it came to looking to improve the team? What areas did you identify? And I guess what was your mindset coming into this year about how you felt about how you improved the team?
Well, it was sort of identifying the goals was easy, right? Because we had some significant injuries to some of the defense, and we knew we had to answer that, and we wanted to maybe try to add some players in other areas. And a lot of it is a function of who's available and who wants to come as well. So that really was our focus was, listen, we have to find some D, and we were fortunate that we had the right guys who wanted to come, and they fit in, and they came at numbers that would fit within our cap. And it was also, I think, quite beneficial that the coaching staff bought in right away and gave them the opportunity to succeed.
Front left.
Bill, this is for you. Going back to when you acquired Matthew Tkachuk, is this what you envisioned in terms of what he can do, kind of putting you over the top and where you guys are today?
Yeah, I mean, if you watch Matthew Tkachuk play hockey, and then you watched our team, it wasn't a great leap to think that this is a pretty significant asset that can come in, and he brings that energy and enthusiasm. And I think he was 24 at the time. He's a younger player still coming into his prime, and he's a big moment guy. And yeah, so I can't tell you that. Yeah, I'm going to be sitting here today, but that's the goal.
Back right.
This one is for Paul. I will ask you to go back in your memory for a while. It's a two-part question. When you first joined the NHL, in Carolina, I think it was in Greensboro, not even in Raleigh.
It's Hartford. I'll go even further back.
Yeah. So what changed the most? The coach in you, the person in you, in that time when you came in and now? And sometimes we say that a great player doesn't need the Stanley Cup to be considered a great player. Do you feel that it's the same for a coach, or as a coach you feel that you really get the cup to be over your head to make sure that your tribute will be recognized by everybody?
I'll do the second part first. Everybody's different. Every coach is different. And it seems to me, as you age, you get a different perspective on life and what's important and valuable. I need to win one. No, it's not going to change. It's not going to change the section of my life that's not related to hockey at all. Yeah, that's just the truth. That's how I feel. I'm 30 years into this thing. Wouldn't mind winning one. How about that? Yeah, I mean, yeah. When it's over, because I thought it was, you get to I don't even want to say peaceful. I use the word peaceful. I'm not sure I ever got to peaceful. But I understand what it feels like to feel like it's over and you didn't win. Didn't win. I know coaches that feel the opposite at all. Maybe it's a function of I think I carry the losses. And that goes back to starting very, very young. So I'm going to know when this thing's all over, either how good I got or how good I was. And I won't need somebody else to tell me that or to value my career. I'm not saying I'm going to value it really high. I'm not telling you where I'm valuing. I have a pretty good idea of the job I've done when it's over. Yeah, I'd really like to win one, man. The other question is, all things have changed completely, and I think the vast majority of them for the better. This game is way better than it was when I came in. And this is not to be disrespectful of the champions before. In my experience, I get in around 95. I hear that, I don't maybe hear it over the last couple of years, but that idea, players don't respect each other anymore. Like the opposite is true. When they used to hang over the bench and say, I'm going to kill you, they meant it. Like, that was literal. These guys take care of each other. They treat each other better. And I'm not specifically excluding the other teams. I'm including Winnipeg. My experience in this league, the men are better. They treat each other better. They treat the support staff differently. It's all better. Since 2006, this game is way better than it was. You can have an 18-year-old kid, like the one in Edmonton and now the one in Chicago, come in and be dynamic. You'll remember Pat Burns' comment when Joe Thornton was playing on the fourth line saying he's too small, he's got to put on another 20 pounds. Well, he was probably about 200 pounds at the time. Like, it's way better now. And I enjoy that more. I enjoy the head good men, don't get me wrong, but I enjoy the people in the game far more now because I think they're far better people. But I was as big an ass as they were, so I'm not saying that I was this really good guy and they weren't. I was right in there.
We're going to keep taking questions, but players are starting to make their way to the pods upstairs. On the left side, Michael.
Paul, obviously Edmonton has two unbelievable top lines led by two unbelievable centers. Barkov can't play against everybody.
You think?
Yeah, exactly. But on that note, without giving away trade secrets on matchups and things like that, how confident are you that if it's Bennett's line, Lundell's line, whoever you put out there are going to be able to check those guys?
Can't tell you the number of times this year that you've gone in to a building with a dominant matchup, a dominant line that you were matching, especially on the road, and you're going, I don't like that match, right? Like I gotta get Barkov on point or I'm in real trouble. He's got Cirelli on Barkov, and I don't like that. And Bennett's line just was phenomenal. So fortunately, I was slow enough to not change it, right? I couldn't get to what I wanted to. We all have a match, and we have an idea going into the game. And those are good ideas because you've watched, this is true of Edmonton, you've watched your team play for years, and we know what Barkov is, we know what McDavid is, but that puck's going to drop, and it's not always what you think. So you make your adjustments and you go. And last really, truly hard match coach was probably Randy Carlyle. And I don't think you see it as hard as you used to. It's the D matches, but even then, everybody can skate.
Right side, first row.
Bill, I wanted to get your take because Sasha Barkov was one of the few players that you kept from when the team, when you took over the team. But I mean, how has he kind of built your vision here? As it seems like everybody around him is kind of taken that infectious defensive style, and all of a sudden, I think he's probably one of the biggest personalities as far as how the team plays.
Yeah, I think it's. I think he leads by example, and it's not an intent. It's just how he is as a person, and that his defensive style, the way he plays hockey, is really a function of him buying into how to win hockey games and doing what needs to be done to win. And it may manifest itself with other players, maybe not only on the defensive side of the puck, but in a commitment to doing the right things consistently and all the time. And that description suits him well.
We'll take three more questions. Left side, second row.
Paul, you go to the Cup final in 2002, and then you don't get back until 21 years later. You were talking about perspective. I'm wondering, what perspective you gleaned from that you were able to impress upon your players here and maybe just take forward for yourself that allowed you to play your role in getting this team back so quickly.
My two long-term stints prior to this were complete rebuilds. The Hartford Whalers, I think when I got there, hadn't had a winning month in 4 years. Like that, you got to chew on that for a while. Like that's tough, right? And it took us, we built. It took us 7 years. We made the playoffs, I think 3 years into it, and then kind of hung around. And in Winnipeg, we went through a rebuild there, and I knew that going in. Kevin had said, we're going to assess the year, and then we're tearing this thing right down to young kids. There's a long stretch of rebuild in that. And that has turned out to be really good. Because if you got to scratch and claw, everything's got to go right, good goaltending, stay healthy to make the playoffs with those teams. A lot of times we did. Got by in Carolina. One time we hit a home run almost, right? And we got thrown out at home. So that's been really valuable. Let's look at, I showed up here, they had 122 points. I managed to get them down to 92 in 1 year. Brilliance. So there was no rebuild here for me. It was a style of game that I think they knew they could play. They believed in the style, grabbed hold of it. By January of my first year here, we've been a really good team. And that's the players. This is just a really good team, and they play hard for each other. So much of the heavy lifting, the cultural heavy lifting that you have to do when you go in was already done.
2 more questions, right side, second row.
Paul, Chris Knobloch says you interviewed him for the job
I
in
did.
Winnipeg, and what
I
did you
did.
see in Chris Knobloch then, and what do you see about him now?
I remember that. And I didn't know if that was going to come out, but I interviewed 17 coaches.
He told us.
There you go. I interviewed 17 coaches that year. So 16 and 17 were Chris Knobloch and Jamie Compound. And like he was a young guy at that time. You sit down and 10 minutes in, you're going, this guy's a head coach. He's just wired for it. Very clear, very concise. He knew exactly. He was very open with what he did, what he wanted to do. And I didn't hire him because I didn't want that for him. So there are a lot of similarities. We're both young, came in trying to get into the NHL young. We didn't play. We're not insiders. I thought the best thing for him was to stay a head coach because he was. And he was going to be a head coach. He just felt it. So I was very high on him. He had a young family. I also was pretty confident in where we were in Winnipeg. It was like I wasn't leaving, so it wasn't going to be a secession, very probably. And I thought he should keep his craft. So he calls me 2 years later. So it was a real good interview. So he calls me 2 years later because he has another opportunity. And I understood that, and he didn't take my advice. He was right. Because he had an opportunity to be an assistant coach. I told him that. If I'm you, play your craft. You're a head coach. You're not an assistant coach. Stay as a head coach. Be a head coach. You will get your chance. Smarter than me. He took the job, and he ends up here. But I thought there were a lot of similarities, and my advice was just more be patient. It's coming for you. And I really felt underprepared in the NHL. I had 2 years of head coach of major junior. Right? I was 25 and 26. Pete DeBoer and I doing it from the hip. No idea what we're doing. Then I'm in the NHL. I would have loved to have had 5 more years of head coaching at any level. Just all the small things. He clearly didn't need it, right? He has that strength. So I remember that clear. I thought, I was kind of looking at myself almost a bunch of years earlier because I went through what he was going through.
Last question, front left.
Bill, when it comes to building a roster, how comfortable, you've got a couple of guys that are going to be unrestricted free agents July 1st if they get that far. How comfortable are you as a general manager letting guys play out their free agent season, because not a lot of teams like to do that? And Paul, I got one for you if that's okay. But
I don't know if comfortable is the right word. Sometimes you don't have a choice. And I think each situation is unique, and you always want to do what's best for the team and the player, right? Try to find that existence where if it's something you're going to talk about at the end, okay, but make it work. And if it's something that you can knock out in season without being a distraction to the collective, to the team, then you can do that. So really, I don't know that there's a general rule as far as a level of comfort, because you just have to treat each individual situation as it is, and make sure that you maintain the integrity of the team, and that it doesn't become any distraction.
Hey, Kevin, Paul needs to be somewhere. I'm going to dismiss them. Thank you.
Rip it quick.
just how important are special teams this series?
It all depends on how many penalties you take.
Good answer.